Good morning, everybody. Jason Meyer here with Morning Jumpstart. And I know I appear a little bit dark, but that is so our palette and our painting can have better lighting. So I thought this morning what we would do is we'd take a break from critiquing student work, and I would demonstrate some painting techniques, the lay-in of the landscape today. The reason being is it matters how you put the paint down. And I think it's very important for you to see that and see the maybe some of the different things I'm doing that you haven't considered doing. Right? So I hope this sparks your imagination, gives you some insight as you watch me lay this in. So I hope everybody's okay with that. Let's see, Miss Shakti's here. Good morning. Good morning, my friend. And Claudia. All right, we're pinning down the coast here on the Central Coast. Excellent. Oh, there's the magic behind the scenes. Always there. Good morning, good morning. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking. I want to jump right into this. We are, if my calculations are correct, we're at Thursday morning. So that means we're going to have sketch club tonight and class tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at 9. Sketch club is tonight at 7 on Facebook. Okay, so with that, why don't we, there we go, take a look at that. So this is completely dry. If I remember right, I believe this is a 12 by 16. I'm going to paint on it on its side. You're seeing it just as I'm seeing it. Okay, but it doesn't matter. And why am I doing this? Well, because it fits in the frame that way. That way we can get it as large as we can and still see the whole thing. And I think also it'll be good so that it doesn't look so much like a landscape, but it's a little more abstract. And what I've done here on the palette is, can you guys recognize what's going on? What if we start here? A number 4, and I don't know if you can tell the difference here, but this is like a dark gray green, and this is just a dark gray. So I have a number 4 value, and I have a gray at a number 4 value. I have a green, right? So number 4 value is going to be right in here, and I was thinking about putting a little bit up here too, just so why? So what if we went a number 4 value, then a number 3 value, then a number 4 value, up against our number 2 value, right? All held in place by our number 3 value and our number 1 value. So instead of just being a single value here by trying to sneak in another dark here up front, it'll help give depth to the scene. And it'll be more interesting because this is such a large space. Okay, so number 4. Boom, boom. Number 4, I don't have that, but that value probably be some down in here too. Our number 3 value. The grass. The sky. The blue. The gray. And the shadow on the hills. Not the hills in light, but the shadow on the hills. And where does that leave us? So we've got a gray, green, or we've got a green, number 3. We've got a blue, number 3. And then I've just got a gray, number 3. Now, I'm not just going to assume these are right. I have a feeling this is way too chromatic. I have a feeling, well, this might be right. We'll see. But we're going to have to adjust things. That's probably going to need some red in it. But again, these are kind of my starting piles. And then as I work the paint and get big pieces on here, we're going to compare and relate, compare and relate. Now, we're going to do, well, no. Let's set up this foreground, right? And the trees. And then we're going to move back, decide where we want that. I may kind of sneak that in just so that I can really design the shape that I want. and then build around that. And that too, maybe, I was thinking I wasn't going to start, but I think I will, just to see more, to place them where I want them so that the other values can conform around them. I hope that makes sense. All right. Good morning, Susan. Good morning. We're going to demonstrate the landscape today, and we are up and running. So if you have question or there's some confusion as I go ahead and type them in, and I'll look up periodically. And what else? I've got a timer here. I've got a timer set for 50 minutes. Because if I'm in creative mode, I sometimes completely disappear. So that way we won't spend 4 hours on YouTube this morning. Okay, you guys ready? You warm enough? I think I'm warm enough. Looks like I'm in the Arctic, doesn't it? Looks like I'm in the Arctic. So we're going to start our timer at 50 minutes. And should we get to painting? Let's paint. Let's paint, let's paint, let's paint. All right, let's start with a big brush. Oh, so my paints, ivory black, cobalt blue, white, raw umber, permanent green light, yellow ochre, cadmium orange, cadmium red light, burnt umber. These are just some extra dirty piles that were pulled aside. And like I said, there's my 4 strong values, and I have grays at those values with my blue sky. As far as mediums go, the stuff that I want thin, I'll be using the Galkyd light. That's what you'll see here. And then the Neo Miguel, where I need juicier, a little juicier paint, right? So I think the Galkyd light for transparency, and the juicier paint for our focus. So let's take just red, a little bit of orange, a little bit of my yellow. Now those are pretty strong, so I want to knock those back just a little bit with my black. And see if I can't get that adjusted. Now I don't want to put any gray in this right now because I want this to be up front. And look, that's going to read as a really strong green right now. But it looks dark enough, and we got to get something set up front. Again, notice how I'm not putting it on there solid. Right? I don't want a big wall here, but there's kind of all this growth happening. So things like this are exactly why I wanted to demonstrate, because that's much different than picking up a big scoop of this and just putting it down solid. Okay? And then also, as I put this down, even if I don't get it exactly right, I'm going to think about going near too far. Which means what? Well, as much as possible, especially these first 2, I'm going to do my best to keep all white out of this part of the canvas. Okay? So that's my challenge here to myself. And we're going to see if we can get it as we lay it in to go back into space. Again, I'm going to let this be a little bit darker. So we have a number 4, a number 3, a number 4, right? Running into our number 2, our number 3, and our number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know you guys are ready to hang up. You never will want to hear those numbers again. But trust me, just after you get really aggravated with them, if you'll dig in a little bit, they'll start giving up their secrets. And then you'll start seeing the beauty of those numbers. All right, we want to keep something warm up here in front. So we've got our cad orange, our cad red. Right, and part of what I want to do is start to get all this white off this canvas. I'm not working this way because that way means space. So I'm working this way so that when I come back here, I can change. When I come back here, I can change. When I come back here, I can change. And that's how we'll walk across this field. Janny made it. Good morning, Janny. Good morning, my friend. Yeah, that 1, 2, 3, 4 is deep. And not only is it deep and it gives up its secrets, but it's like a seat belt, right? You just feel, oh, okay, now I can get around here. So I need to, how am I going to start sending this back? How am I going to start sending this back? Well, yellow disappears first. So those have more yellow in them. So let's sneak in a little more red. Sneak in a little more red. And again, if I lay it down too thick, it doesn't work. Part of what I'm doing here is spreading this. And that's the advantage of using a little more fluid medium. And again, it's not perfect, but I'm thinking of this as a process. I'm thinking about what I want this to do in the end. Like, this seems way too colorful to me. But, right, we've got nothing else on the canvas yet. So, I can't judge. I can just keep marching along. Keep marching along. Alright, so we had our red. And our red's going to disappear. And what will be left then? Blue. So we'll go bluer. Again, no white in this. I haven't put any white in yet. And I'm lightening it just by making it thinner. The thinner I make it, the lighter it gets because the board shines through. And we want this to feel much more like a field of grass too, not the side of a concrete building. Yeah, and if I'm not going so graceful, you'll have to excuse me. I am painting at a very awkward angle, but again, that doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter. Oh my god. Oh, the 4 values have become part of her soul. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Kind of makes me smile, but I don't know. I seems like I overshot that one. I hope I didn't hurt. I hope it didn't hurt too bad. Oof. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. You know, for well over a decade, man, I chased colors and color harmonies. Man, I could never get my arms around it. And then finally, okay, well, what if I really believe what everybody says? Value, values, value, value. And what if I prove it on my canvas? And then what if my color is dependent on that? Now, part of what I'm doing here, do you guys understand that I can never go back and get this effect back? I can never go back, and if I cover this with big flat paint, I'm going to never be able to get this effect again. So in other words, paint quality is super important. Right? Super, super important. All right, so that feels like it's kind of holding its place right now for me. So that makes me feel all right. Now I feel like rather than going to these trees, I'd like to get this gray in here so that the dark could lay on top of the gray because it's in front of it, and also our light can work on it. So I'm going to put my gray in and my blue, and then I'll come back and I'll establish my trees, my tree line. Then we'll do our light, right? So our gray is going to be back here, our blue is going to be up here, our light will be through here, our white there. Okay, we'll march forward. March forward. Yeah, I mixed before I was on camera just so that we'd have time. I believe it or not, I was up at 4 this morning so that we could do this. 4 this morning. And I kind of had my head working and stuff in here before 7. So this was I believe this was basically black and yellow ochre is what I started with. A little bit of my cobalt blue and maybe a touch of that. But as I get into my painting brain, I'm not going to be able to answer questions like that. Sorry guys, we can go back over it later, but while I'm doing this, I got to make sure to stay on the creative side because it's easy to fall off. Alright, so one of the methods I'm going to try for this gray sky is rather than mixing white and black together, remember at first I'm going to try to leave my white off the canvas. So what can I do just by thinning my black? You guys see how I can adjust the value of that gray without using white? Again, it's not that white might not eventually go in here, but, and since this is so dry right now, look, this is the perfect time to cover these edges. Any white right along those edges, go right in there and get those out of there. All right, we can white back and still have the trees, but that white will be gone. Okay, so some of this is strategic. Some of this is strategic. Meaning, oh, I want this effect, so what do I have to do? So again, all I'm using right now is ivory black, and then when I press down hard, some of that green from earlier mixes in there. So I can keep it from being too monochromatic just by pressing down and releasing some of that dirty paint that's already been used when I was doing that pile. Alright. So, and we do want to hold them in here, I think. So let's get Get a relatively dark gray going on up there. Again, just make sure all that, any white that's showing, this is the time to get it covered. Get it covered, because all of this is dry, right? So I'm not going to make a mess as I go over it. And I can still wipe it back if it goes on too dark. Okay, are we setting the stage? Are we setting the stage for our superstars to make their appearance with their hair and makeup and wardrobe done, their lines memorized, their publicity is out, right? You know that they're absolutely no different than you or me, right? Well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is there's been a few $1 million spent hyping them up. Yeah, they've got talent. I'm not saying they're not talented. But a lot of the superstardom is kind of the pomp and circumstance around it, right? So we got to have a lot of assistance, a lot of buzz, and then they have to be somewhat rare. They can't be too available. If they're too available, how superstar are they? Right? If they're sitting on your couch eating potato chips with you, well, that's not as glamorous, huh? That's not as glamorous. And notice how, again, I don't have to go solid back here. Why? Well, because this is going to be gray clouds. And are my brush strokes different here than they were? Right? So sometimes it's just simple things like that. Right? And again, you can only do that if you're thinking about the paint and the look of the paint when you lay it down. Right? Please don't blindly be following any instructions. Unless you're just getting started and, wait, what? If you're completely lost, then yeah, blindly follow. But in short order, you got to start understanding, oh, I want this to look good. So how can I do what he's asking me to do and still make it look good? Can you change the direction of your strokes of how you apply the paint? Can we make super thin paint and thicker paint? Right? Can we keep our values clean as we do this? All right. Let's see what's happening up here. Yeah, you guys are. I'm glad you're appreciating it. I'm glad you're appreciating it. Yeah, and you know, it can be helpful because you're going to see this tree shape clearer when it's more abstract. Right? If we looked at this like a tree, we could go, wow, that's a good shape. Oh, is it really? Is it really? Anywho, so just stuff to think about. Stuff to think about. And I know the big deal with painting is you got 7 chainsaws in the air at once, juggling them. They're all gassed up and powered up. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Again, if I cut in too far on the cloud, I'm fine with that. Right? I'd rather cut in too far than not far enough, because I don't want to leave any white showing. So at this point, I need to, what exactly do I want to do here? I think if we do let the cloud kind of start there, but just small and quiet. So we'll leave a little bit of that. And maybe that's just kind of an echo of a bigger cloud. So I try to be careful not to go like straight around it, because that'll look so different than how I've painted everything else so far. And then I know I'm going to come here with blue, but I'm going to use this to lightly start thinking about the shape of this cloud. And so with the tree bending like this, I feel like we should have the wind blowing this way, which means what? If something's running into the wind, what happens to the front part of it? Well, it's meeting resistance, isn't it? So that'll be a little bit harder edged and a little bit softer back there. Okay, so that's my theory. And back here, let's see again, I'm going to leave room for a little bit of echoes of some white. And then we want our hard edge up like that. Maybe highest point here. Okay, so are we closer than when we were when we started? Yeah. Yeah, are we wasting time? I don't think so. I don't think so. Right? Because if you run through this too fast, it's not going to look. And what if everything else was wrong and these clouds just look like bricks? Oof. Oof. I don't know if you guys like that sound. I love making that sound. That is compliments of Izzy. Compliments of Izzy. Okay, so as I glance up here, I see some spots. So what I might do is come back into those spots. And just deposit some darker stuff so I make sure to hit it. Okay. And leave that. Let's try this blue. So I think this blue is going to be way too much. But look, I've got all kinds of stuff to gray it in my brush already. In my brush. See, I have the timer set. I don't have to worry about what time it is. I don't have to worry about what day it is. I can just disappear. So again, this is going to be part of the movement, isn't it? If we send them straight, that might be a little much, huh? So what is it as we go up this? We just have a little kickback up here. Just a little kickback. Maybe something like that. Again, if the values and stuff aren't quite perfect yet, I'm okay with that. Right? I'm still setting up the board at this point. We don't have our dark on, we don't have our number 2 on, and we don't have our number 1 on. Okay? I'm thinking theoretically this blue is going to need to be lighter than some of these gray clouds. Okay, so in that sense it's reading a little heavy. But let me just kind of pull it back a little bit. And how do I do that? Well, I'm picking the paint out so that more of the background shows through, and that makes it appear lighter. because the blue was darker than what was there before. So this is tricky. Why? Because I'm not handling my values by just mixing paint. A large way, maybe, well, perhaps equally as mixing the value, I get the value by how I handle the paint on the canvas. Let's see, how are we doing? How are we doing? Oh, I heard we got a dosey do those birthdays, huh? We got dosey those birthdays. So Janny gets 2 birthday loves. You deserve it, Janny. You deserve it. All right. Oh, we love to spread the love. So we got Claudia on the oof. We got Claudia on the oof. I think someone needs to invent an emoji for oof. Oh, hey, I'm on it. Yes, we got a movement. We got a movement. Oh, look, Cindy's got. Oh. This does feel a little bit like school, huh? This does feel like school. You guys shooting spitwads back there? You guys shooting spitwads? Okay, so we're going to move into this now. So this is going to be a little clunky with this brush. So I'm going to set this aside. And I don't want to get too small. That feels like that's still maybe a little big. So I'll come down to a number 3. So yeah. So I feel like I can get in there without getting too tick-tacky and still manage in here, maybe even with a couple of sky holes. And you know what? No, this is going to be the brush for my dark. And then I'm going to go a little bit smaller back here. Oh, and I got a round. Look at this. I got a round. The round is interesting because it'll be different than all the other ones. And I can get into some different paint configurations. Do we have time for paint configurations? The soft, airy feel. That comes from the paint quality, kind of using the more fluid medium and keeping, and then even once it's on there, spreading it a little more. Can you guys see that you can see through that? Okay, so that's in focus now. So that's the foreground. So it looks really messed, but that's where that airy quality comes from. Right? It's not so solid. And then there's the sky. Oops, glare. There we go. There's not much blue. Look how little blue there is. Okay, but I tried to make sure to get all the white out. I didn't get the white out there. Bad Jason. Bad Jason. But a lot of this is going to be this green and shadow, which is going to be slightly different. Probably a little bluer than the gray. So I hope you guys see that. I can see this was from last time. I hadn't even touched that yet. But yeah, not very pretty up front, huh? I actually think it's beautiful, but sometimes it takes a while to realize, oh, I can do that? That's okay? That's okay? Yeah, that's all right. There we go. All right. Good, Claudia's on board. All right. You guys let me know if that helps doing that. I know that takes a little time and stuff, but I do think it's important to get your nose in it to see actually what the brush strokes look like, right? Because a lot of times they'll read so differently. Anyway, so we've got this airy feeling now, and so what's the purpose of this? Well, we've got to stop you. We've got to pause you. We've got to, don't fall over the edge. And so this is going to stabilize us. So we're going to be darker and more stable, not so airy here. But we're going to have some negative spaces so it doesn't look like a wall. And that's going to be done with our number 4. And where are those brushes I picked out? Here they are. Here they are. And now, since I don't want this as airy, I'm going to go from the fluid. So I was using Galkyd Lite, right? The Galkyd Lite, which is a little more fluid. It flows. And then I'm going to skip to the Neo Miguel, right? Where I want more of a solid feeling, right? A solid feeling. And solid flat paint carries. I'm just making sure there's no gunk in the brush. All right, just gonna take a little pile over here so I don't have to get that whole pile dirty. Now, just because I want a little thicker doesn't mean I can't still move this stuff around. And again, you want the paint to look interesting. Well, how's the paint going to look interesting? Well, if you don't put it down in an interesting manner, good luck. Right, and I can think about leaving some room. Maybe putting this just a tad bit closer. Up a little. Right, we don't want that evenness. And this too is a hold. We want to hold you in here. So I want this solid enough that it holds. Okay, so I don't know when it's going to happen, but as you guys know, or a lot of you guys know, I've stepped back just a bit to work on the online school to get that built up. And so as soon as I'm able to start experimenting with the lives in the online school, I'm going to use probably little demos and stuff to find my way around that. So if you haven't made your way over there and got your little account, you can set up your email and all of that and get a password. And it's not going to charge you anything. You're free. But then you'll be there and ready to go once I figure out how to test these lives out. Okay? And I believe they'll even save them there, and then you'll be able to find them and all of that. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I've worked all of this. So what does that mean? Well, it means the paint in my brush isn't as solid as it was before, or it's a little bit weaker. So where's my next dark tree? It's over here. Right, so by having my two darks, I'll compress it, then all of those are going to be further away from us, so those will need to be a little bit weaker. So it's just literally with working with what's on your brush. Right? Oh, okay, now this isn't as strong. Oh, well, where would it belong then? We want to make sure we're not even. I don't want to go too low over here. Because I do want this to be in front. And you see how much better these things look as I leave some of that background showing through that I made the dark? And I made it dark warm on purpose. Don't know if you guys remember me talking about that. So that that warm could shine through a little bit. Okay, and then if we want to step back the next layer, what would that be? What would that be? Well, we just so happen to have some dark gray here. So why don't we just take a little dark gray? And again, with kind of the thickness of the paint or how much or how little you can see through it, this is, again, has to be above that because it's further away in space, that tree line. And we don't want it super even. So this is still a little dark, that's okay. But I just want to put a little bit of this down so we can have a little variety here. Right, so we're definitely darker than this. But again, I'm also trying to maintain a soft transition between those. I don't want much activity here because I want your eye right up here. So this is going to be pretty inactive right around here. These couple of trees could have a little more action going on. Quiet. And then maybe a little bit going on here. Right? And then we need to escape up here, so the rest of this needs to be relatively quiet. Right, so when I'm painting the trees, I'm thinking about what needs to be happening in the rest of the painting, right, at that point on the canvas. Yeah, I've had a few guards talk to me in my day. Sticking your nose in the painting. Hey, but I'm investigating. It's okay, I'm investigating. I'm a painter. You don't understand. You don't understand. Yeah. Step back. All right, good. One of the reasons I wanted to demo today was to challenge you to get your paint to have some different looks. And again, I want to reiterate that at the beginning of the painting, if you get flat paint, you can never go back to this look, right? This look is because this is so thin. Then as I get thick, boom, that really stops you, right? It's not a suggested stop sign. It's a red light with a cop sitting there. You gotta stop, buddy. You gotta stop. It's because you guys, most of you are doing just fine here, right? But it's then, okay, translating that onto there and getting more from it. How can we do that? And part of the reason I can do that is I'm not in a hurry, right? So this is my lay-in, right? I'm going to think of this as my lay-in. I'm just trying to get the general colors right, the values in there closer, and then I'll let it set up and we'll come back and we'll really get going. Let's see, it says I have 11 minutes left. I'm going to do my best to at least get these marks in here. I'm not even going to attempt this tree because I really need to take my time and I don't want to muck that up because I'm hurrying. But I do want to make sure to get these values in there. Therefore, right? Can you guys tell I studied philosophy? You gotta have reasons and logic backing up everything you do. And what's funny, that's just, I like to have that in my pocket, but once you have that reason and your logic, that almost needs to be the balance on your bicycle, right? It's it guides you, but you're not thinking about it. So we're right here. I know this is way too much. This is just right. For one thing, amazingly, it appears too way too dark and too rich. And I do want this to be flat paint, so I don't want to just be rubbing that around. So if it's too dark, what do we do? Well, we lighten. If it's too rich, how can we do it? Well, we can gray it down. Well, there's some nice gray right there. And that still looks like about the same value, or maybe even lighter. This is flake white instead of titanium white. As you can see, it's got more body. So the look of this to the look of that, right? We're gonna get more. So if I need to move this around at all, I'm gonna use the NeoMiguel just to make it extend, flow a little better. Okay, that already feels a lot better to me. And maybe this dark is, look, this dark is really dark. Isn't it? That's really dark, guys. I think we need to adjust that. Because this will never read right. This will never read right. Okay, so we got to knock that down a little bit. We've got to knock that down. So let's go with the lighter gray here. Make sure I've got some flow. So one of the things I'm doing is it's slightly lighter in some places, but it's also way cooler. Okay, that still feels pretty heavy with me. But my timer says I have 7 minutes. So, knowing it's not going to be right, knowing I'm probably going to have to come back next time in adjustment, I'm going to push forward and get my number 2 in here and my number 1 in there. So, forward ho. What should we do with every green? Put a little red in it. This is already feeling so much better to me. All right, so that feels to me far away when compared to those 3. Far, far away. Right? In this land of Cambria, California, and you can ask Claudia, this is nothing but true. When the power goes out in this beautiful land of green, the only way they have to communicate is to yodel. Yodel-a-hee-hoo, yodel-a-hee, yodel-a-hee, yodel-a-hee-hoo. Ain't that right, Claudia? You gotta back me up. You gotta back me up here. Cambria, California. California yodelers. Okay, if you guys don't know me, I'm completely making that up. That is a total fabrication. But sometimes it's fun to dream up a little stories. Alright, so we're going to leave that like that. We got white showing, Oh man, it's bugging me. Just chill out. You're gonna get to paint on it again, man. You get to paint on it again. Let's go up. And I do want this to start down there. So I want gray to come in there, so I'm not gonna fill in that white. I like that shape and I want to lock it. Like that. Let's take a break. Just take a breather here. Take a breather here. Okay. And again, this is going to be going back into space, but since I don't have time, I just want to think about this shape. Okay, so I think that's going to make a shape, and I think that's going to be enough, and I think by having so little, this is going to be dramatic, right? Sally and Mary and Bob and Ted and oh my gosh, the drama. The drama. Okay, since there's just going to be no way I'm going to be able to live with myself like this, we're going to come in here. We're going to come in here. Oh, and you know what else? We may have we could have mountains back there, but I don't think so. If I change my mind, I'll come in there and change it. But for right now, what I want to do is I want to kill that white. Get that white off because it's thieving the show from, taking the show from the hills there. Okay. 3 minutes. Oh man. All right. Are you guys gonna let me run over for 5 or 10 minutes? Let me run over 5 or 10 minutes. I'll go close. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Painting takes time. Painting takes time. No, you are kidding me. You are kidding me. Are you serious, Claudia? You have a friend that yodel? Do they teach? I would take classes. I would crack Izzy up. I aggravate Izzy all the time yodeling to the neighborhood, and she's so embarrassed. I would love that. She's got your on. All right. All right. So we might have a yodeling painting instruction here before too long. Oh, see, it's supposed to be a surprise. I thought Cindy had left. All right. Cindy's on it. Uh-oh. Now that Cindy's involved. All right. So since I'm going to take just a couple of extra minutes, what I need to do is I need to get some of these hills in shadow. Right, so why don't we take some of that. It's going to be warm though. So I want this to go blue. Let me add a touch of cadmium orange. Okay, will that read like shadow back there? Seems like there's a lot of yellow in it, not enough gray. A lot of yellow and not enough gray. So that's where I started, that's where I went. Okay, and that feels okay. It feels like it might be a little heavy, but maybe with some soft edges we might be able to do that. Let's see. Let us see. Let's see. So the wind's blowing this way, the sun's going that way. So that means there'll be a couple of these back sides of these mountains that are facing away that'll be in shadow. And notice, so the shadow color of these hills that are our focal point are also a strong color. Hmm. Just a little hint there, just a little hint. So the chroma of this is like literally almost killing me right now. But again, we can come back to it. And I'm going to take it on thin, and I will wipe this down in a second and maybe even add a little red. Okay, so there was our 50 minutes. What's our time? 8:56? All right. So that's the advantage of owning the broadcasting studio is I can go over. I don't have the next guy like, "Hey, out of the studio." All right, so if I get too fast here, I'm gonna have some pretty goofy looking mountains. So we're gonna try just putting some things in there and not leaving too much. Okay, so what I can see immediately is I know my clouds here will have to go darker in order to get the effect that I want there. Let's feel a little bit. This felt a little cold, so I dropped a little warmth in there. And yeah, is that too dark? Absolutely. Absolutely too dark. Doing it right takes time. Good takes time. Good takes time. Okay, guys, you're going to have to be generous with me this week. But, I mean, it was just an hour. It was just an hour. Now, I'm not showing you me cleaning up a mistake here. I'm showing you how I paint. All right, I needed those grays darker. So I've got some gray on there. It was too dark. And so now I'm just knocking it back till it's a little bit more appropriate. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so let's get to those clouds. Let's get to that cloud. And if we're skipping along right up here, we want to land inside that cloud, so maybe like right there. So now that I know that, let's set up for that. So there'll be an underneath. Sometimes underneath those shadows there's some warmth because of reflected light. And again, we can go and adjust some of these values and stuff later, but for right now, and it'll go slightly cooler and darker is the shadow side. There. I just don't want any white showing through that white canvas. It actually might be okay right there, but I don't want to get later into this thing and then that being a hole. So let's come back. Where do we want that white? We want it right in here. Okay, well, let's put that down and see if we can call this a lay-in. See if we can call this a lay-in. Yeah, I think that's titanium. This is, yeah, can you feel, look how it bends my brush. It's so stiff. So stiff. We gotta call in the heavy equipment. Call in the heavy equipment. Okay, guys, I think that's about where we're going to have to leave it today. Let me see if I can get you a good close-up here. Again, what I was hoping to you to see is it matters how you lay the paint down. It really matters how you lay the paint down. And right now, if you go into Art Central, I think it's 3 days. Mention code Jason. They'll give you 25% off any Gamblin product. All right. I don't get any feedback from that, but if you want to try that Galkid light to start with, get into Art Central. Tell them code Jason. Get the 25% off. Okay. So we looked close at the transparency. Now let's look close at the green. And there comes the white cloud. Now again, is everything? No, it's not perfect. But again, we've got to do this in steps. We'll go back over the green. So compare this to that white cloud. Right? Different, different, different. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your attention. Let's see if we can get that back in focus. Oops. All right, so that'll be left to set up and dry, and then boom, we'll go back it again. But each time we go back, we want to push our idea forward. And the first thing we want to do is get our main idea. Then we can start developing any secondary ideas. But first things first, let's get that thing really popping. Okay, which means that we're going to have some adjustments to do on those things that are just holding those things still. But we'll get to that next time. Okie dokie, let's see. So with that, thank you guys, Shakti Love. Okay, great. You are welcome, you are welcome. You are welcome, Janny. You are welcome. And all right, Claudia, let's see if we can get that yodeling thing happen. At least give me a sample of that yodeling. All right? That's going to keep me striving. Keep me striving. All right, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. See you tonight in Chess Club. Not Chess Club. Where are we? Sketch Club. Sketch Club tonight. And class in the morning, 9 a.m. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.